The baby had barely taken his first breath when his mother screamed, "Take him away!" Grace pushed herself up on the hospital bed and stared at the newborn wrapped in a white blanket. His right arm was twisted. One eye seemed smaller than the other. His tiny face carried visible deformities. The nurses exchanged uneasy glances. Outside the delivery room, Richard rushed inside. "What happened?" The nurse lowered her eyes. There were complications. Grace turned away from the child. "I don't want him." The baby cried louder. Richard looked stunned. "Grace, that's our son." "No." Tears rolled down her face. "I carried a monster." The old cleaner standing by the doorway quietly crossed herself. Then every machine in the room suddenly went dark. A strange wind swept through the ward. The baby's crying stopped. He simply stared upward. The cleaner whispered, "The gods are watching this child." 3 days later, Grace signed the discharge papers. She never once held the baby, never kissed him, never even gave him a name. Richard stood beside her. "Please don't do this." Grace picked up her handbag. "That child ruined my life." Richard stared at her. "You mean our child?" She walked away without looking back. Months later, she filed for divorce. To friends and relatives, she told a different story. The baby died. Nobody questioned her. Meanwhile, Richard raised a boy with his mother, Mama Esther. The old woman gave him a name, Elijah. Years passed. The insults arrived before friendships. Children laughed at his appearance. Adults pitted him. Yet, whenever danger came close to Elijah, something impossible always happened. At 8 years old, Elijah had learned to walk alone. One afternoon, 3 boys cornered him behind the school building. Look at his face. He's cursed. The oldest boy picked up a stone. Elijah stepped backward. The stone flew. Before it reached him, a violent gust of wind changed its direction. The stone smashed a classroom window instead. The boys stared in disbelief. Dark clouds gathered overhead. Thunder cracked across the S. KY. The boys ran. Elijah stood alone in the schoolyard. Confused. Protected. That evening, Mama Esther opened an old wooden box. Inside was a faded photograph. The child in the photograph looked exactly like Elijah. Even the twisted arm. Elijah couldn't sleep. The photograph haunted him. The next morning, he begged Mama Esther for answers. Who was that boy? The old woman sighed. Your ancestor. She finally revealed part of the story. Generations ago, a hunter from their bloodline saved a sacred forest. The village elders believed powerful spirits rewarded his descendants. Not with beauty, not with riches, but with protection. Elijah listened carefully. The story sounded impossible. Yet, so did everything that had happened to him. That night, he sneaked into the family library. There he found an ancient journal. Across the first page were words that made his stomach tighten. The marked children must never be abandoned. 12 years passed. Elijah had grown into a quiet young man. His appearance still attracted stares, but his intelligence earned respect. Then one afternoon, a luxury SUV stopped outside the family compound. Richard looked through the window. His face hardened. Grace had returned. She stepped out wearing expensive jewelry and a confident smile. What are you doing here? Richard asked. I came to see my family. Family. The word felt strange coming from her. At dinner, she barely looked at Elijah. Instead, she kept asking questions about inheritance, property, business shares, land titles. Mama Esther watched quietly. She recognized greed immediately. That night, Grace slipped into Richard's office. Hidden inside a locked drawer, she found a file. Its title made her eyes widen. Elijah, sole beneficiary. Grace stared at the inheritance file long after midnight. Every page carried Elijah's name. Properties, company shares, investment accounts. Everything Richard had built was destined for the son she once rejected. The next morning, Grace transformed herself. She arrived at breakfast smiling. "Good morning, Elijah." The young man looked surprised. For days, she acted like a caring mother. She bought gifts, cooked meals, asked about school. Richard remained suspicious. But Elijah slowly lowered his guard. For the first time in his life, Elijah wondered if his mother had truly changed. Then Mama Esther handed him an old sealed envelope. "Read this before you trust her." Elijah opened the envelope in his room. Inside was a handwritten letter. The signature belonged to his grandfather. The letter had been written years before Elijah was born. Line after line described a recurring pattern in the family: greed, betrayal, inheritance wars. Then came the final sentence: "When greed returns, trust actions, not tears." Elijah sat silently. The words felt uncomfortably familiar. Meanwhile, across town, Grace met a lawyer. She had already started a legal challenge against Elijah. The woman pretending to rebuild a relationship was secretly preparing to destroy him. Grace's lawyer smiled. "We only need one witness." Weeks later, court documents arrived. Richard was furious. Grace claimed Elijah was incapable of managing family assets. The accusation spread through business circles. People whispered. Some believed her. Others didn't. Elijah felt humiliated. Years of hard work were being reduced to his appearance. The hearing date arrived. Grace entered the courtroom looking confident. Behind her stood a former nurse from the hospital where Elijah was born. Grace believed the nurse would help destroy Elijah's credibility. When the nurse took the stand, she said something Grace never expected: "I will tell the truth." The courtroom became tense. Grace stared at the nurse. The nurse stared back, unafraid. "I remember the day Elijah was born." The judge listened carefully. The nurse described everything: the rejection, the insults, the abandonment. She pointed directly at Grace. That child was never a problem. Reporters filled pages with notes. Grace's confidence began slipping away. The judge ordered the hospital archives to be examined. A forgotten recording from Elijah's birth had just been located. The recording played inside the courtroom. Static crackled through the speakers. Then Grace's younger voice emerged. "I don't want him." The courtroom remained still. The recording continued. "I won't raise that child." Every excuse Grace had built over 12 years collapsed. Journalists rushed to publish the story. Public sympathy shifted toward Elijah. For the first time, Grace looked frightened. The case was slipping from her hands. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, another piece of evidence surfaced. A written testimony left behind by the hospital cleaner before her death. The first line sent a chill through the courtroom. This child was marked long before he was born. The courtroom listened as the cleaner's testimony was read aloud. The old woman had written the statement months before her death. Every word carried weight. She described the strange blackout during Elijah's birth, the sudden silence, the unexplained wind, the feeling that unseen eyes were watching. Then came the final page. It mentioned an ancient prophecy connected to Richard's bloodline. A child born different, rejected by many, protected by forces beyond human understanding. Grace laughed nervously. Stories and superstition. But nobody else was laughing. For the first time, people began connecting years of impossible events surrounding Elijah. As the hearing ended, Grace received a phone call. Her largest business contract had just been canceled. The bad news arrived one disaster at a time. Investors pulled out. Partners resigned. Clients disappeared. Grace spent years building her empire. Now it was crumbling in public. Television stations replayed the courtroom recording. "I don't want him." The sentence followed her everywhere. Even employees whispered behind her back. One evening, she sat alone in her office. The expensive room suddenly felt empty. Everything she sacrificed her son for was disappearing. For the first time in 12 years, Grace opened Elijah's baby photograph, and she began to cry. A week later, Grace returned to the family house. No luxury convoy, no designer confidence, just a broken woman carrying regret. She sat across from Elijah, the son she once refused to hold. I was ashamed. Her voice cracked. I chose appearances over love. Elijah listened quietly. Years of pain stood between them. Years she could never recover. Finally, she whispered, "Can you forgive me?" The answer would determine the future of both their lives. Elijah looked directly into her eyes. Then he said, "Yes." Grace closed her eyes in relief. But Elijah wasn't finished. "I forgive you. That doesn't erase what happened." Grace lowered her head. She understood. Forgiveness was not freedom from consequences. Days later, investigators exposed years of financial misconduct inside her companies. Board members removed her. Assets were frozen. Friends vanished. The same abandonment she gave Elijah returned to her. This time, she was the one left alone. Grace visited Mama Esther's grave. For hours, she sat without speaking. Then she whispered, "I finally understand." Years passed. Elijah became known throughout the country. Not because of wealth, not because of power, because of compassion. He used the family fortune to build schools, medical centers, scholarship programs, especially for children born with disabilities. Every child he helped reminded him of the boy he once was. One evening, he stood beneath the same sky that watched over him at birth. The wind moved gently through the trees, peacefully, protectively. People once called him cursed. They once called him a mistake. But the child his mother rejected became the man who changed countless lives, because what the world saw as a deformity was the very mark the gods had chosen to protect.